Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Doctor. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. Lots of clouds and lots of rain, but we're not going to let that deter us from having a fantastic day. This is going to be our first Theorycraft video, you guys. And if you guys do like content like this, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. It's the #1 way to support me and to ensure that videos like this do keep coming out. And today we're going to be taking a look at a 100% critical hit rate team, you guys. Now, we're going to go ahead and go through what the French would call the mise en place of everything. So we're going to be setting everything in order first. We're going to be gathering all of our ingredients so that you guys are going to know what's in the builds and what exactly I'm using. So I did want to try and do this with only using one TMR and no UR TMRs. There are, of course, better gear options than some of these pieces of gear for critical hit rate. I am aware of that, but I wanted to make this build at least somewhat accessible to people. The first piece of gear is going to be, of course, the Lightning Katana Sir O's TMR. Easily accessible MR TMR, 13 critical hit rate. The Razalgethi built for a critical hit rate build of plus 13. I am aware that there are higher critical hit rate TMRs that you can put on Lucia, for example, and then you can go for an Assault Razalgethi. That is probably a more viable option, so if you are wondering how to build your Razalgethi, you should probably be doing an Assault. And of course, the Drake's Horn Spear with critical hit rate plus 28, you guys. Absolutely insane and incredibly powerful. We are going to need a couple of cards as well, max leveled out. And fortunately, all of the cards that we need for this specific build are SR, and I believe one of them is MR. I think they all are SR. So of course, fun time if you guys are familiar with it at all. It has a single unit effect of critical hit rate plus 20 and a party ability of attack plus 15%. The specific critical rate plus 20 is going to be really good for Lucia, and Lucia is going to be the one that we put it on. The reason we're going to put it on Lucia is Lucia has the lowest sort of base critical hit rate out of all the units, so we do want to give her the highest card buff critical hit rate that we can. The second card we're going to be looking at is going to be Cactuar, and the reason we're going to be looking at Cactuar is he has a party ability-wide critical hit rate plus 9. Now, we are going to put this on King Rob, and the reason we're going to be putting this on King Rob is that out of all the units we're going to be looking at, King Rob actually has the highest base and passive critical hit rate out of any unit in the game, you guys. So with his passive and with his mastery ability, he sits at an insane plus 65 critical hit rate. So we are going to put the Cactuar on him because we don't have another individual critical hit rate boosting card, and we also don't have another party-wide critical hit rate boosting card that we can put in the party. Finally, on King Elda, we are going to be doing the bomb card. So that's going to be a critical hit rate plus 20% on the individual unit. Now, this card is a very weak card. It only offers the critical hit rate. It only offers an attack plus 40 when it's fully awakened. If there's any card I would sub out, it would be this one. And I think there's a lot of potential opportunity, especially with Elda, to actually remove this card. And we're going to go ahead and talk about why that is when we start getting into the specific stat calculations for the critical hit rate for all of the units in this build. Now, we do have two Espers currently in Global that are going to be very powerful for critical hit rate. The first one, the not as powerful one, is going to be a little bit more defensive. That's going to be Siren. She does come in at critical hit rate plus 7. And then, of course, you do have the option to get a wonderful slash resistance 25%. This is going to add the survivability element to your characters for this critical hit rate build. I would say this needs to go on your frontline character. So that would probably be King Elda or it would be King Rob, depending on how the critical hit rate stacks and depending on sort of the defensive capability of your characters. And I'll show you how I broke that down once we get to the actual build. And of course, she does offer a wonderful 768 HP, 41 attack, 67 magic, and one of the higher agilities out of all the Espers, plus 18. Now, probably the highest critical hit rate boosting Esper that we have access to is going to be Cactuar. Now, Cactuar gets plus 20% critical hit rate, you guys, and that is just going straight up on his tree. You also have the option to grab Man Killer. You could also grab Magic Attack Up, you guys, if you wanted to use a magic unit instead of a physical unit for critical hits. Cactuar, however, does not have the highest HP. He has significantly lower attack, but he does come with 70 magic, so the trade-off is a little severe, and it is going to depend on how you plan your group in order to pull this off. I think, though, Cactuar is very important, and I think with the Human Killer and with the critical hit rate 20, if you're putting him on a physical unit, it can offset the low attack value and the low HP value. Specifically for Cactuar, we are going to put him on Lucia, because Lucia is going to be on the back line anyway, and she is more suited for a lower HP Esper, given that she'll probably not be on the front lines. Hopefully, as long as the AI is doing as is intended. Now, let's go ahead and start crunching some numbers, you guys. And I know you're probably looking right over at the totals and getting very excited, and then getting very offended because I said this was a 100% critical hit rate build, and you're not seeing 100% over there. Hold on. So, King Elda has a base critical hit rate of 13. His passive, which is Deadly Mastery, gives an additional plus 25. He gets the plus 20 critical hit rate buff from the Bomb card. He also gets the plus 9 critical hit rate buff from the Cactuar card. He gets plus 28 critical hit rate from the Drake's Horn Spear, putting him in a total of 99% critical hit rate. Sir Rob has a base of 30, a mastery of 10, and a passive of 25, putting him at the highest critical hit rate. That is why he has the Cactuar card for the plus 9 there. He gets plus 13 from Sir O's TMR, and he gets plus 7 from the Siren TMR, or from the Siren Esper, sorry. So that's going to put him at 94% critical hit rate. Lucia has a base critical hit rate of 35. With Fun Time and with the Cactuar's bonus, she gets plus 29% critical hit rate. She gets plus 13% critical hit rate from Raz Al Gethi. And from having Cactuar equipped on her, she does have plus 20 there, giving her a grand total of 97% critical hit rate. So where do we go from here? Obviously, this isn't the end of the build, you guys. So we have to also factor in abilities that they are going to be using. So both King Rob and King Eld both have access to Lancer and to Samurai jobs. And you do have to have it set as their sub job to access each of these abilities. So they are only going to have access to one of these abilities at a time. So since we are focusing on a critical hit rate build, I did just say that their sub job was going to be Lancer here. But if you did have them sub Samurai, they do have access to Devotion, which gives plus 15 critical hit rate and plus 30% attack. But with Lancer sub, they will have access to Sharp Spear, which grants plus 30% critical hit rate for a duration of 3 turns, which is very powerful, putting the grand total of King Elda at 129% critical hit rate, King Rob at 123% critical hit rate, and Lucia at 97% critical hit rate. Now, it's really important to note here, you can push Lucia to 100% critical hit rate quite easily with any critical hit rate plus TMR that is going to be over plus 13 critical hit rate. So that's probably going to be the plus 15% critical hit rates. That's probably going to be something along those lines. What's really important here, though, is to think about King Eld and to kind of think about the Theorycraft and what we can do with this information. So King Eld did not even have the optimal amount of critical plus that you could have had on his character. By equipping the Cactar Esper on him, because he didn't even have a critical hit rate Esper on him, you could have given him easily an additional plus 20% for a whopping plus 149% critical hit rate build. Now, not only that, you could also equip critical damage cards. This is assuming that you have a 3-party composition and you're only using 3 units, you guys. You could quite easily go into a 5-man party and start factoring in other buffs from other units. For example, Ryu has the ability Council, which is an AoE critical hit rate buff, which buffs upwards to 30% critical hit rate additional on top of this. So it would be very possible for you to build a critical damage, 100% critical hit rate build for the future. Now, there is a couple honorable mentions here, because a lot of the units I talked about are not known for their critical hit rate capabilities. And the reason for that is because if you have Ninja Subjob, you do have access to an ability called Decider of Fate, which is going to give you accuracy plus 60 and a guaranteed critical hit rate on your next attack. So that's most popularly used with Stern, who has innately critical damage plus 25% already. So that's why Stern really has a reputation as a critical hit rate unit, even though he doesn't have a lot of innate critical hit rate plus techniques. It's that Decider of Fate that makes him very powerful. Medina, along the same plan, can actually sub ninja and have access to Decider of Fate. And I'm actually kind of surprised we don't see this strategy utilized with her a little bit more, because with that accuracy plus 60, with that guaranteed critical hit rate, she would not actually need any sort of magic attack power or accuracy plus buffs. She would be able to just go in, pop her LB, for example, guaranteed critical hit, and devastate an entire field of enemies. I'm actually surprised we don't see Medina sub ninja more often. It seems like something that would just make sense with me. And then, of course, we have access to Ryu, which, if he's subbed Gunner, gives him access to the Council ability, which does give an AoE critical hit rate bonus. He's an excellent critical hit rate support unit. It's important to note that Lucia does not get access to Council. I didn't check Frederica, because I think if you're using Frederica, you are not using her in a support capacity. You're probably using her in more of an offensive capacity, whereas Ryu is more of a support ranged unit. So we do have an honorable mention for Ryu here as well. Of course, with Decider of Fate, you also have Kitone, which could be mentioned here, but I think Kitone is not always known for her critical hits like Stern is, and I think critical hit flares have probably killed more of us than we would like to acknowledge. Thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. If you did enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button. It's so important for me. If you are planning on buying Visior as well, make sure you use my affiliate link for Amazon coins in my description. It does save you 20% on Visior if you do purchase Visior with Amazon coins. And as always, you guys, make sure you come check out the Discord, make sure you drop a comment in the YouTube section, and come check me out on stream, you guys. I am here almost every single night except Monday and Thursdays, and I do try to stream at times that are both accessible in the evenings for people on EST and PST. Thank you so much, you guys, and have a great rest of your day.